Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to share with you something very exciting about the true nature of the Quran. Something you've probably never heard before and something that will blow you away, I promise, and that will affect you for the rest of your life. When I discovered this, it changed my life. It changed everything about my life, everything about how I dealt with the Quran, how I approached the Quran. Now, I'm going to speak to you from heart to heart, without any cutting or editing. So if I fumble a little bit, please bear with me, but this is really worth it, and I promise you. In order to understand this concept, first we need to introduce an analogy that has three parts. So if you are patient with me, we will understand these three parts, and in time you will see exactly what I'm referring to. The question that we are dealing with today is, what is the Quran? What is the nature of the Quran? Is it truly a book with some characters and some words in it that people are describing as a book or a scripture? The answer in the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word kitab, which is a book or maybe a message, right, as an approximation. But in many other places in the Quran, Allah describes this Quran as an instrument. So for example, he says it's an instrument through which Allah guides people or misguides some people. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using this book or this text or the Quran as an instrument. Think of it as a cell phone. The cell phone is an instrument. What you receive through it changes from time to time. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive. He's the continuously alive. He's never asleep. He's never away. He's close to you all the time. Whenever you reach out for this instrument of communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there for you. Now, to go to the analogy, I want you to understand first that I live in a country right now where we receive satellite television stations using what's called a dish. It's a metal round thing with a receiver connected to it. And the first concept here is that you have to tune this receiver and you have to install the receiver correctly, believing fully that you're going to catch the signal of a satellite to which you're pointing. If you bring this receiver dish and you throw it somewhere and point it to the sky and leave it alone, of course it's not going to do anything. If you don't have full faith and confidence that it's going to catch a specific exact signal coming from a specific exact satellite, and you know how to tune it correctly, you're not going to be able to use that satellite receiver correctly. So that's the first concept. The second concept is that that receiver by itself doesn't do anything. It catches some microwave signal, and then you have to transfer it to a television set or a computer screen or something, right? And using that projection device, you're going to be able to see the signal translate into some visual images or some intelligible representation of what those waves you receive through the satellite mean to you. And therefore now we have two concepts, right? Two elements of this analogy. The first is the satellite dish receiver, and the second one is the projection device, which is the screen, right? And the third element of this analogy is that all of these things have to be powered by something. You have to have some energy, some power, something to bring them to life, right? To life. Otherwise, they're dead. They're just dark and sitting there as dead objects. Now, these three elements of this analogy are enough to explain exactly what the Quran is and our relationship to Allah through this Quran. First, the Quran is an instrument. It's a receiving device. It's a device through which we receive the light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that actually gets reflected on our hearts. Our hearts are the projection device. Let me elaborate a little bit more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very specifically that you affect the Quran when you engage it properly. In other words, you set it up so that you start receiving through it. That's the first implication of this analogy. You have to know what the Quran is. You have to truly believe, entering into reading the Quran and engaging the Quran, that you're about to communicate with the source of light, or the source of enlightenment, or the source of guidance coming to you through these words and these characters on a page, right? So that's the first thing you have to really believe, and you have to tune it correctly. You cannot be pointing this Quran against Islam, for example. If you enter this Quran trying to find a way to attack Islam, you're going to be misguided, you're going to be misled, and that's purely and truly clear in the Quran itself. The second concept is, once you receive this guidance from Allah through this instrument called the Quran, I used the example earlier of a cell phone, right? You look at the cell phone one day and you see something. Another day you look through the cell phone and you see something else. If somebody comes and tells you, I'm going to give you the interpretation or tafsir of this cell phone, it doesn't make sense at all. Or if I say, I'm going to give you the tafsir of this satellite dish, it doesn't make sense. Say, what do you mean, tafsir? You know, the true, correct understanding of this analogy makes interacting with the Quran beautiful, because every time you read a verse, even if it's the same verse, and this happened to me several times, I read one verse, and the same verse, I read it again a month later, or 2 months later, or a year later, and every time I understand something new from the verse. It is live. It is receiving guidance directly from Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is right there giving you knowledge. Why should we be surprised by this? Because in Ayat al-Kursi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. They do not encounter any of knowledge from Him except through His will and in the way He wills it. In other words, all knowledge comes from Allah, live. And this is not surprising at all to anybody who deals with science. We get an idea out of nowhere. We discover something. We are looking at some data and an idea occurs to us, or a design occurs to us. The question is, where did this come from? And the answer, according to the Quran, from Allah, live. Live. Allah is alive all the time, and He's with us all the time. And the instrument we use to communicate with Him is this Quran. It helps us configure the satellite dish in our heart, in our mind, in our body, so that we actually become ready, able to receive. Now, let's move on to the projection device. As I said, the satellite dish by itself does not allow you to see anything. It just brings the signal, the microwave signal, and then you have to translate it into a projection device that actually show you, that provide a representation of what you just received. The representation, as far as the Quran is concerned, is imprinted on the heart. The heart is described by some scholars as like a lens, and the lens needs to be polished, needs to be cleansed, needs to be, very clean and ready to receive. And it needs to be alive. It needs to be properly maintained. It needs to be prepared. If you cover that TV set, which is a projection device, if you cover it with a blanket, you're not going to see anything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran describes the hearts as sometimes covered with blankets. They're not capable of receiving anything. Even if it's dusty, you're going to see muddled images. You're not going to see clearly. If you have a child and your child took a Sharpie permanent marker and started drawing on the television set, and then you try to turn it on, you're not going to see clearly, right? Same thing. If you make mistakes or commit sins in your life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that leaves imprints and prints and marks and dirt on that lens, on the heart. And then you're not going to be able to see correctly through the heart. So that's the second part of this analogy. The third part of this analogy is that the satellite receiver and the heart require energy. The question is, where do we get this energy? Like electricity, you plug both in the wall, in the electrical outlet, in order to bring them to life, right? So the question is, how do we bring the heart and the receiver to life? What's the energy that we provide them? And the Quran answers through acts of worship and through acts of devotion. So when you pray, you're cleansing your heart. When you avoid mistakes, you're cleansing your heart. When you regret some things that you've done wrong and you ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're cleansing your heart. When you avoid, committing sins, and you behave ethically and you apply the morals or the values that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught you about in the Quran, you're actually providing that energy to the receiver and to the projection device. And this way you have a fully receptive instrument through the Quran to actually receive. Without these things functioning properly, all three parts, the receiving dish, which is how you engage the Quran correctly and how you configure yourself to receive, believing fully that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is engaging you alive, right? That's the first part. The second part, your projection device has to be ready and powered, turned on, and your electricity is stable, meaning you're providing the sustaining acts of devotion and worship and prayers and dua, making supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking forgiveness for the mistakes you've made, recognizing that you have spots on your heart that need to be cleansed, that's being regretful for the mistakes you've made, recognizing them first and cleansing your heart on purpose. All of these things combined enable you to open the Quran and use it effectively, use it properly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He said in the Quran, He is with us anytime we call upon Him. We open His book. In other words, this book is not a book like any other book. All other books, with words, characters printed on paper, represent things that people or their authors said in the past. The Quran does not bring things that Allah said in the past. The Quran brings to you personally, individually, based on what you need today, live messages from the source of all light, from the source of all guidance, exactly what you need at this time. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals through the Quran things that He knows you need today. He knows more than anybody else, more than yourself, what you need today. Just engage this Quran with this full belief, with the sincerity, with the appreciation for this special, unique, unmatched gift preserved specifically for you, and then try it and practice it. I wish I can get you to see this segment of video, to repeatedly see it again and again until it becomes ingrained in your psyche, in your spirit, in your soul, in your understanding, in your consciousness, so that every time you open the Quran with that intention. I hope I've been able to deliver the message to you. I hope you practice this, because you're going to see amazing results and miracles unfold in front of your eyes every single day. Now, before I close, I'm going to leave you with a practical reality. Some people are going to call me crazy for sharing this with you in this way that I shared it. And to be honest with you, I feel sorry for them because they don't understand the Quran. Others are going to feel elated and happy, and they're going to practice this and they're going to see amazing results. A third group are going to feel sad because they have not been able to touch the language of the Quran, the actual expressions of the Quran in its original form. And to those people I say, as long as you have time in your life, work at it, learn it, engage it, spend time instead of watching television or watching all sorts of things and playing games and doing other things that will not connect you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spend time, learn the Arabic language, teach it to your children, teach it to those whom you love, and don't allow life to end without having you experience this special gift, unlike anything else that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided to us. If a king has sent you a gift and you don't know how the gift operates, you probably would not sleep, would not lose a moment of your time until you figure out how this gift is going to be affecting you and what it means to you. This is the most beautiful gift from the King of Kings, from the Lord of the universe, from your Creator and my Creator, from the one who has placed our ability inside us to receive knowledge through this unique device called the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to make best use of this. Thank you for watching.